Welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm joined by exciting debut author Mary Colussi. Mary is an Australian-American writer based in Sydney, and her debut novel, Touch Grass, is already generating buzz ahead of its release this June after winning the 2025 Penguin Literary Prize. Blending speculative fiction, dark humour and sharp social commentary, Touch Grass explores identity, memory, technology and what it means to stay connected in a world that increasingly feels disconnected. The novel follows Charlie, a woman whose consciousness begins spontaneously ejecting from her body, setting off a bizarre and unsettling global crisis involving corporations, erased memories, and somehow an immortal sheep. In this conversation, we talk about Mary's journey to publication, the inspiration behind Touch Grass, writing speculative fiction that feels eerily close to reality, and the themes of social media, identity, and human connection woven throughout the novel. This is such a smart, funny, and thought-provoking conversation, and I'm so excited to share it with you. So sit back, relax, enjoy, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, or share with family members, colleagues, or friends. Enjoy. Hello, Mary. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
I am doing very well, although the weather's changed a little bit. Are you in Sydney as well?
I am, yeah. And I noticed there was sort of a dark pall fell over the sky just moments ago.
Yes. Very different this morning. It was like blue, clear skies, lovely. And then
it's
just gone. Yeah, it's gone the opposite.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we're inside. We're safe from if it does start to rain. Well, welcome to Beyond the Plot podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. Before we step into your story, why don't you intro yourself to the listeners today?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So I'm Mary Colussi. I'm an Australian-American novelist and screenwriter. I've worked in digital media, in entertainment, in book selling, and I have a book coming out in just under a month called Touch Grass, which is my debut novel. It's coming out with Penguin Random House. And yeah, that's kind of the intro to me. And I feel like I do have to say, people might be confused. Why is she American? And then she's also Australian. Born here, Australian parents, grew up over in the US. So I got stuck with the accent, unfortunately.
No, like I've,
Thank you.
I think it's nice. And thank you for sharing that with us, because I'm always intrigued actually. And it's crazy. So your parents are born here, moved to America. Are they still there, or did you all kind of move back together?
They were still there until really recently. I came over to Australia a couple years ago. My parents followed about a year later after like 30 odd years in the US.
Yeah.
So they're just settling back in after living here full time for the first time since they were like 22.
Yeah. Wow. What made you want to come back to Australia?
Always planned to live in Sydney at some point. I mean, definitely having the two passports is such a privilege, and there's no reason why you wouldn't use it. And I had spent around 7 years in New York. I went to university there. Then there was a pandemic. I'm sure you remember it. And then I went back after the pandemic and worked for a bit. And I sort of just wanted a change, and I wanted a fresh start. So I moved across here. And also my older sister, I have one sister, has lived in Sydney since she was 18. So this is the first time we've lived in the same place since for like a decade plus. So that was a big part of it as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's so nice that you're able to do that as well. I think, I'm the same. I mean, I was born in the UK and moved to Australia in my 20s. And luckily enough, I became a citizen. So I have dual citizenship as well. So do my children. You just feel very lucky when you're able to do that, because you can come and go and you feel like you've got two homes, which is quite nice to have that position. But what's one thing that you miss from living in the US?
Like with probably the exception of like the people, obviously, and like the people I've had such great relationships with. I'm not used to the weather here yet. I grew up outside of Boston. I was living in New York. I am not built for the summer. I'm waiting to evolve into a summer person. But not quite yet. So like this is what it is right now, where it's like dark gray and gloomy is like where I'm most comfortable. And then when it's like beautiful in January, I'm like, I have a hard time dealing with it.
It can get quite intense actually. I actually really love like autumn and spring, especially in Sydney. Like obviously depending where you go. My sister lives in Melbourne, and that's more like 4 seasons in one day. And it feels like the UK. But like we've also got my parents got family on like up near the Gold Coast, and that's lovely because it's just sunny all year round. So very different again.
As someone who grew up in New England, I complained about the weather 24/7, and then I moved somewhere that has objectively much better weather. Like objectively, it's an upgrade, and I'm still complaining about it 24/7. So maybe it's just a temperament thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I mean, in terms of your writing and stuff, I mean, what made you want to kind of take that initiative now? Like, was it the move for you, or do you think that you'd still gone down this path if you were in the US, or do you think that moving to Australia made you take that leap?
It's a really good question. I think I would have always ended up doing this, or I would have always ended up trying to do this and trying to release books and trying to work as a writer. It's something I've always been really committed to. I'm one of the people who's very lucky to be able to say, like, I've always known what I wanted to be able to do, and this is it. But like, yeah, moving to Australia definitely, I think it changed the path I was on, just because the industry here, it is smaller, but it's so mighty. And like, it is there's such a community and a literary community here that I've really gotten to experience in the very short time I've lived here. I've only lived here full time for just over 2 years now. So I wrote the first draft of the book my last summer in New York. So like a couple months before I moved to Sydney. And the fact that is getting published at this point. And what feels like, I mean, publishing is always slow, but it feels fast to me. It's like, I don't think I ever would have managed that in the US. I don't think. But who knows?
Yeah. So like, take me back a little bit to, your life in America. Like, had you always been like a writer? Had it always been in you? I know you worked for BuzzFeed, and I know you obviously did your dramatic writing in New York City as well. So like, it feels like it's always been a part of you, but what did that look like for you when you were growing up?
Yeah, I was an incredibly awkward kid, and I had a really hard time communicating with other people. Some of that was shyness. Some of that was just, I think, like a bit of a strange personality. And writing was the way I was able to communicate with people. Part of that was my teachers were like, you're good at this. You should keep doing this, which like to me, I was like, validation. Perfect. I will follow that trail. And then part of it was just the fact that, yeah, it felt like the best way for me to be able to connect with people at a time when I had a really hard time doing that. Mm-hmm. And then in high school, I was a drama kid. I was very involved in our theater department, but I'm a really bad actor and I'm just no good at it. So I did the costumes after trying and failing to audition a few times. And then I decided to write a play, and the idea of sort of pitching it to my high school theater director, because we used to do this thing where we would take like a 1-act 40-minute play to a statewide competition. And that was sort of the play where we got to be like a little bit experimental, a little bit funky. And so I wrote a play for that going into year 11 and said, can we do this? And she ended up saying yes, which was an incredible opportunity. Yeah. And so that we did this. So we cast people and we did this whole play of mine. And I just remember when we performed it at the competition, there's probably like 800 or so high school students and like teachers and everything, because you perform a bunch of plays in one day. And we're all sort of sitting there. And there was like a moment in the play where there's like a twist. There's like a Shyamalan style twist. And like, I remember them saying the twist, and I remember the silence, like the sort of quality of the silence in the theater. And I remember looking around and being like, ooh, I like this. Like, this is like, I like feeling like I am sort of conducting this room right now. Yeah. Even though no one, like, I don't have to be on stage. No one here would look at me and be like, she wrote this. Like, I get to experience this moment of like connection that I had always had a really hard time coming up with. So that was and so then I was like, ooh, I need to keep chasing that forever. So that's what led me into script writing specifically. And then fiction writing has also always been a passion of mine. Reading's always been a passion of mine. I mean, when you're an extremely awkward kid, the Hunger Games means a lot to you. So I just followed that thread.
I love that. And I mean, when you started writing this novel, did the story just instantly come to you? Where did that inspiration stem from?
Yeah. So I had tried and failed to write novels. I think like 4 or 5 of them in the 2 or so years leading up to me writing Touchgrass. And I kept failing. And I kept getting to like 200 pages and then being like, this is nothing. This cannot be a thing. And So for Touchgrass, I was so determined to finish something because I've been working at BuzzFeed for 2 years. And BuzzFeed, if you're not familiar, is like listicles and quizzes and sort of funny, goofy pop culture stuff, which is fine and it has a place. But I was like, can I even write something? Like, can I write something that takes me longer than half a day? And that's like 90% SpongeBob gifs. So it was a bit of a challenge to myself. And I was frustrated at myself because I felt like I wasn't doing the sort of writing I wanted to be doing. So what I did for Touchgrass was I made a list of everything that I was obsessed with. Because I was like, if I'm obsessed with it, I'm going to want to write about it. And that's going to get me to the finish line. And the initial idea, which is of a woman who her consciousness starts leaving her body. That's like a short story I wrote a couple years ago that like nothing really happened with. But I'd kept on to the idea. So I was obsessed with this idea of disembodiment and the physical versus the digital world and the smallpox, which comes up in the book. And like all of these things that I was really wanted to explore and wanted to talk about. It came from that list, really. Like the initial concept was from a short story I'd written, but the book as a whole, which goes in so many weird directions, was from me sitting down and thinking, like, what is going to actually motivate, like, what do I want to talk about enough that it's going to motivate me to get to 85,000 words?
Yeah. How long did it take you to write it?
I wrote it in just under 3 months.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I'd quit my job at BuzzFeed. I knew I was moving to Australia, but I had like a couple of months before I moved to Australia. And I had some savings from working at BuzzFeed. And I was like, I'm just going to do this. And I'm going to see if I can do it and like prove to myself that I can get to the finish line across this. And I just had so much fun while writing it. And it was like the most fun I'd had writing in a really long time. Like it had become really like fraught and like, I just always felt like a failure when I was writing, but like this, I didn't focus so much on that. I just focused on the writing itself. So I was just enjoying myself, honestly. So that really helps.
Yeah, yeah. And were you doing it like every day, 7 days a week? That was like your kind of job for those like 3 months?
Yeah, pretty much, honestly. Like I was, I'm not one of those writers who like sets out like, I need to get this many words done in a day or I need to write for however long in a day. I was doing probably like 1,000+ words a day, again, just because I was enjoying it. There's always days where you like wake up and you're like, I'm ready to go. Like my coffee's perfect. I have the right pen. And then you're like, I have absolutely nothing. But luckily in that particular case, those days were far and few between.
Yeah. I mean, you worked at BuzzFeed for 2 years. They're still incorporating writing. And obviously you're, going to NYU. That's got to be quite a significant part to becoming a writer as well, right? I feel like you've learned some skills, you've got some knowledge. How do you feel that aligned with writing Touchgrass?
Part of it, like from working at BuzzFeed, because it is a full-time job and I was there like Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And something that I sometimes struggle with writing is it can be very solitary and you're kind of only answerable to yourself. At least in the stages before you get to sort of the editor, publisher, agent stage, you are only working with yourself. But when you're at a publication like that, you slowing down or you making a mistake or you not delivering it has like sort of a domino effect on a bunch of other people. So I think part of it is just that sense of like, oh, I'm taking this seriously, like as a job. And I think my degree at NYU was similar in that sense. Cause again, I was studying screenwriting. Like it wasn't like I was like in the lab with like a micropipetter. Like it was like, go off and watch like a Billy Wilder movie. And I was like, absolutely. But a huge part of my education there was like, not taking yourself seriously, but taking the work really seriously because it is, I mean, any kind of writing, any kind of creation, like it is passion based and like the people. That's one of the great benefits of working in an industry like this. The people you're working with really want to be doing the work and you want to respect that and be able to meet them there. So I guess just like taking it seriously, even though like, it's a book with like cactus legs on it. Like it's not like a Call Me Ishmael book.
We'll just show it. It's very eye-catching as well though. The color and like the font and the graphics. I like it.
Yeah, Alyssa Donalo did the cover and she did an incredible job. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned that you had tried to write, novels previously that weren't really successful, did you actually put them out into the world? Like, did you query them, or were they things that you just wrote yourself and you weren't happy enough to kind of take it a bit more seriously?
Yeah, they never left my laptop. I think like I came close to finishing some of them, but I do remember this moment of like, I think I'd written like 350 pages of something, which is just a ridiculous amount of pages. And I read through it kind of in all one day. I read through it and I was like, no, like this isn't, it's just like fundamentally, it's like I've built a house on water. Like it's just, there's no way this can be a novel. It doesn't make any sense. It is fundamentally flawed in a way I cannot fix. I guess like the biggest thing I learned was like being able to identify an idea that you actually can take to a novel length. Like you can't, that will sustain a novel's narrative while like sustaining your own interest in it. I found that really difficult because like I just be like, this is interesting. And then I would write 150 pages about it and then be like, oh, actually, it's not interesting at all. Or like the way I'm looking at it isn't interesting or whatever.
It's a long process to then work that out. Yeah. But I do feel that like everything that you've written so far has probably almost contributed to you then having that idea to be like, write about something that I'm interested in, because if you're interested in it, yeah, you are going to commit. And I think all those other pieces that you wrote probably helped you get to that point and understand like that's how you should approach it. So don't think it's a waste of time. You never know, you might revisit them, in years to come.
Yeah. I certainly have the material, but I 100% agree. I don't think there's any such thing as wasted time writing. I think you're always just preparing, like you're always preparing yourself, if not that particular piece of work, to get better and get stronger.
Yeah, exactly. So take me through the process then. So you wrote Touch Grass, and then what did that look like for you? Once you had finished what you were happy with as your manuscript, did you go straight querying? Did you enter the competitions?
I did not query it. I kind of didn't do anything with it except chip away at it, like on my own laptop. Because the timeline was that I finished it and then I moved to Australia. And then like 2 weeks later, I started my MFA at the National Institute of Dramatic Art here in Sydney. And that's a 1.5 year long program. And like that it was like a sponge that soaked up all of my creative juices. So like people who are in my cohort, they knew I'd written a novel. I talked about it, but it was just so not my focus for a lot of it, because I was just like, one, I'd moved to a new country, and like that was, as you know, is a lot of admin and just a lot of work. Two, I was doing a degree for the first, like I was back in like a classroom environment for the first time in a while, which is a huge adjustment. It's very demanding, like great environment, very demanding, time-consuming environment. So I was thinking about it, and I applied for a residency at Verona, which I was lucky enough to get. I applied for funding at some point, which I didn't get, to like sort of take some time off and work on it. I applied to the Ritual Prize and it got longlisted, but then did not get shortlisted. And then about a month after that, I applied for the Penguin Prize. So that would have been in December 2024. Throughout all of that, I'd been rewriting it. And I think I'd probably done at that point, like when I submitted to Penguin, I'd done like 3 solid rewrites. And like one sort of immediately after finishing it, or not immediately after, like a month after finishing it, another sort of slowly over the course of months. And then one right before I submitted to Penguin, because I realized there was a plot hole in it. And I was like, I need to fix this right now. And I ended up doing like sort of a speed rewrite. So Penguin got like version 3.5 and I never expected to win. So I kept working on it after that as well.
Yeah.
And then the editing started, because that's just what it's like. So yeah.
Yeah. And how did you feel like when you submitted it? How did you hear back from them, and how did that make you feel, kind of knowing that you had won?
I knew that I was happy with it. And I thought it sounded like me. And I knew that there were big problems with it as well.
Yeah.
That I kind of just hadn't had the time to address, but I felt good about it. But I, like so many writers, I've just so many rejections, just endless rejections, some of which are like, and when it's like a classic writer thing to be like, I got rejected, but it was a really nice rejection.
Yeah.
Like that kind of shows you where our standards are at. And like getting a really nice rejection is actually lovely. And I love getting a nice rejection. So I never, because it had gotten longlisted for Ritual, I was like, okay, there's there's some appeal here. But it is such like a weird book that I was like, I don't think, like, I can't see it like kind of making an impression at Penguin Random House, which I saw as just like such like it's sort of like a bastion of traditional publishing. I was like, there's no way. And so they emailed us that we'd been shortlisted. And I was like, great, like this is fantastic. Like this is as far as I need to go. And I thought about winning, obviously, in the kind of the months leading up to being told that I had. But I remember the day I found out like a week before we were supposed to find out. Like they were like, we'll tell you in June. And then we found out like the last week of May. And I was walking home from the library, I think. And I was like, okay, why don't I just pretend I won and I'll just think about it. And like, I'll like indulge that for a second and like think about how it would feel. Cause I'd been trying really hard not to do that. Cause I knew, the disappointment just hits harder if you just like let yourself do that. I've made that mistake many, many, many times before, as I've said, many rejections later. And then I got home, was making myself a cup of tea, and I got an email from Meredith Kernell, who's now my publisher at Penguin. Yeah. And the email title was Results of like Penguin Literary Prize. And the first line was like, Mary, we met today to discuss the Penguin Literary Prize. And I was like, okay, like, all right, I didn't win. That's fine. And then it was like, congratulations, you've won. And I was like, no, I haven't. You're crazy. And in the email, it says like, we want to offer you a publishing deal, which is part of the prize. And I remember I was living in a share house at the time and no one was home. And so I remember like pacing around being like, oh my God. And I had always said to myself, I was like, if I win, I'm going to wait to tell my family in person. And then I was like, screw that. So I called my sister, I called my mom. My dad was traveling as I tracked him down. So yeah, it was such a shock. And it was wonderful, but it was such a shock.
That's so nice though. And I love that you kind of were putting it out into the world as if you'd won it. Because I do think that has a place, sometimes you got to think positive about these things. And it is hard when, when you don't win or you're not successful. But I do think that makes us stronger. And rejections previously, maybe in your life throughout your career, has made you stronger, and ultimately winning this prize is amazing, and getting a publishing deal, especially with Penguin Random House. Like you said, they are the ultimate traditional publishers, and one of the big 4 or 5 publishers worldwide. Getting with them is you should be so proud of yourself for achieving that, because I don't think it's easy, especially nowadays. There's so many aspiring authors out there, there's so much work out there, it's quite competitive. But I do think there's a place, and we're always looking for new stories and starting new trends, and also something that's different that maybe people haven't read before. I think we're in the world here of finding those authors who, aren't necessarily writing what we're seeing every day and having their own voice. I think there's definitely a place for that now.
I think so. Yeah. And I do just feel so lucky, because it is such an unusual way to get published. And I sort of feel like I sort of hacked the system a little bit, which in some way, in many ways is amazing. In some ways, I remember the first time I had lunch with Meredith and Catherine Knight, who edited the book. And they were like, they basically, in very polite way, where they were like, we know you know nothing. And so we're here to support you. And I was like, fantastic. As long as you know that, I'm going to be sending you emails that are just so ignorant, then I can feel comfortable to send you those emails.
Yeah. Well, that's nice though. I mean, and it makes you feel more comfortable, right? Because they are the professionals. They've probably done this so many times now that, they know what they're talking about. So for your sense, you feel that you can trust them and that your book is, in good hands, because ultimately you've spent a lot of time investing into this story that you want to make sure that it's with people who are going to do it justice as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it gave me the space as well to focus on the book itself. I felt like I was in such good hands that I didn't have to worry so much about process or procedure, because they're sort of every step of the, like, I remember at one point, like, someone sent me a quick email and I was like, hello, thank you for your email. Please send me a much longer email explaining what you mean. And they immediately did, like, which is just good for me, because I'm can easily frazzled. So that was delightful that they were kind of willing to take me under their wing in that manner.
Yeah, that's lovely. And you mentioned you have had rejection, which is quite common in everyone's story to becoming a published author. I think if people haven't had some kind of rejection, that's very rare. How have you overcome that? Like, how do you think that's made you stronger today?
Yeah, I think I read like sort of I don't know what to call it, like an essay that was also a novella. Like, it was just a really long essay.
Mm-hmm.
And it was called On Writing and Failure. And I bought it in a particular moment when I was like, oh, I'm failing a lot. Like, I'm failing more than I would like to be failing. And I think the way that essay is, I don't remember who wrote it at the moment, but the way that essayist framed it was like, every time you get a rejection, that's just confirmation that you're actually trying to get an acceptance and you're putting the work in. Because I think sometimes making art, like, it can feel like it's like, well, what am I really doing? Like, especially writing, where it takes so long for something to become like a physical piece of work, if it even ever does. There can be a sense of like disconnect from like, what am I actually working towards? And getting rejections or concrete evidence of the fact, like, you're working towards sharing your work. And you're working towards getting it into the hands of people who are going to advocate for it and care about it on a similar level that you do. And then another part of it was my parents had a really, like, they had a very healthy relationship with failure and rejection. Like, they've given me the two best pieces of advice I've gotten about failure and rejection. One of which was when I was in high school. I think like I said, terrible actor, just not good at it. And I think I'd gotten like I didn't get cast in the school play or something, probably. And I was really upset about it, like in the way only a 14-year-old can be upset about something.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom looking at me and my mom going, do you realize how lucky you are to care this much about something? And I was like, I was 14. So it took me about 9 years to realize what a good piece of advice that is. Yeah. And my dad gave me a similar piece of advice once, which I was similarly upset about getting a rejection, this time in college. I don't remember what it was for. And my dad was like, would you fail 1,000 times for the chance of succeeding once? And if the answer is yes, it's like, okay, then just add it to the pile.
Yeah.
And I got to like 999. Like, I was putting work out there. So, yeah.
That's good though. I love those two pieces of advice. It's a great way to put a positive spin on it, right? And then, yeah, I think at the end of the day, I mean, there's going to be some rejection throughout your life. It's like how you overcome it, right? How you handle it, how you interpret it, how you digest it, and then how you move forward with it as well. And it could have been a moment where it stopped you in your tracks and you didn't continue. But I think if people did that all the time, then we wouldn't be sitting here today talking about Touch Grass. So and about your journey. So
no, certainly not.
That's good. No. And it's funny, you mentioned earlier about, when people submit their work, when they query it and they get, because I've heard it a lot, they'll get rejection, but it'll be nice rejection, whether it's from an agent or a publisher. And I haven't heard anyone say yet, like, they've got an email back from them saying, this is crap, don't write again. It's always like, there's always some kind of nicety about it, right? Not quite right for us, keep trying, or I like the storyline, but maybe change this and then resend it to me. So I do like the fact that there's constructive criticism out there and that they're trying to help you in a way, not just push people down to a no. It's like putting a positive spin on it, which is great.
Yeah, that's what and that keeps people going.
Yeah.
And like, you need something to keep you going sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, I mean, it's such a lot. Like, every time someone stops creating art for whatever reason, it's just such a loss for the rest of us.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about Touch Grass then. I'm going to bring it up again. It reminds me of summer, actually, don't you think, with the colours? And yeah, it's very vibrant. I like it.
Maybe I'll convert to a summer person. It's happening.
Yeah. So do you want to give us like an overview about what is Touch Grass about?
Yeah, sure. So Touch Grass is about a woman living in sort of a big city in the nearish future who wakes up one day as a cactus. and whether or not that is good or bad for herself and for society at large. The main character, Charlie, works at a tech company called Fresh Start. Fresh Start, as the name implies, deletes things off of the internet that their clients don't want to be on the internet. And for some sort of weird techie reason, when they delete things off the internet, people forget about it in real life. And so Charlie is working this job that she knows is sort of morally gray and doesn't have has lost her parents in a car accident when she was a teenager, doesn't have any contact with her sister or any other member of her family, doesn't have any sort of romantic relationship, doesn't really have any sort of ambition, doesn't really have anything except like a rapport with her roommate Ian, who's a shut-in and like never leaves their apartment. So then she suddenly doesn't even have a body. So she kind of goes on this journey to discover, why is this happening? What does it mean that like I'm okay with it happening and I'm okay with like giving up my physical stake in the world around me? And things get weirder from there.
I love it. I love the concept though. I mean, it's like perfect in today's world, right? We're just seeing so much AI implemented into our world, and it's not going to stop, right? It's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. So I love that concept that, yeah, there's companies out there that delete stuff and then it's actually, removes it from your world as well. What was the best thing? What did you love most about writing this book?
Oh, what a fun question. Think Charlie, so it's first person narration. Mm-hmm. So Charlie's speaking to the reader. I just think writing her voice was so much fun. And like, she's quite dry. And like, she's sort of lived in a world of so much personal and global upheaval that there is like a sort of element where it's like, well, now I have to deal with this. Like there is like sort of like an exhaustion and a cynicism to her that's like slowly gets kind of chipped away by circumstances in the book. But I think writing her and then writing her relationship with Ian, her roommate, and Mal, who's Ian's twin brother, who sort of comes in and out of the story. Because I think I was thinking a lot when I was writing it. I was sort of in like a low point mental health wise, and sort of the pandemic had caught up with me, and writing for like a big online audience had caught up with me, and I felt like really sort of disconnected and disoriented in just my day-to-day life. So being able to explore that through the lens of someone else and just sort of like that sort of daily effort of like, well, I like, and like sort of to like metabolize that sort of thing where it's just like, I got a coffee to make myself feel better. And like now I'm at work and like now like this stupid thing is happening and now my roommate's doing this. And like, I don't know, like there's something like these things that were happening in my daily life that I was having trouble dealing with, the sort of heightened and physicalized in a way through the writing that made it easier for me to deal with the stuff in my own life.
Yeah. So was it quite easy to come up with Charlie's character?
Yeah, it was. She sort of, I feel like appeared fully, not fully realized, there was work went into it, but, I sort of felt immediately like if this was happening, if there was suddenly like a phenomenon of people leaving their bodies, I'd want to talk about it with someone like Charlie. Yeah. Like that was kind of the angle I thought about it from, where it's just like, that sort of combination of like pragmatism and dryness and exhaustion and then like a genuine sense of humor as well. I think that was the sort of person I was like, I would like to get coffee with her and talk about the horrors.
Yeah, yeah. What about, I mean, what's the most craziest thing that you've Googled when writing this, if you did Google anything? Or AI'd anything?
I didn't AI anything. I'm vehemently anti-AI, which you might have picked up from reading the book. But Googling wise, oh man, I went on some journeys. Like I have like quite a deep personal interest, as I mentioned before briefly, in smallpox. And there's a real life smallpox case that's discussed early on in the book. And so I did a lot of reading about that. I did a lot of reading. Well, I think the strangest place I went to is at one point in the book. I don't even know if this made it in, but there's a sheep in the book. And the sheep is like a main character in a way. And at one point I was like, why is it that sheep wear those jackets? Because sometimes you see sheep and they're wearing jackets.
Yeah.
And so I ended up on like a Scottish website that like sold sheep jackets, which is not what they're called. And I remember like reading very deeply, like this website being like, we sell the finest sheep jackets for your sheep. And that's probably the weirdest place I ended up.
Oh my God. Do we know why? Is it, I should know this because I'm from the country, although there's more cows than sheep. Like, is it to keep them warm or like what was the answer to that?
I think it's to protect like their growing wool. But now that I'm saying that, I'm like, maybe that's what I thought. Because I don't know. Now I'm not sure.
I
should write to the Scottish sheep people. Yeah,
they want that
exactly. It's like,
wool,
no.
they get more money for it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was just like, and I was like reading this like I was like going to buy their products. Like I with such focused attention. I don't know how my ads reacted to that. You know, when your ads show you what you've been looking at, they're like, this woman's a shepherd, clearly. They're like, hey, you like the Moors? Would you like this? I'm like, no, guys, please.
What about like, what was the toughest thing about writing this book?
Yeah, probably at some parts of the edit. I think there are points where you've read it so many times, especially when you're a comedy writer, which I am. You've read it so many times that you're like, nothing about this is funny. Nothing about this has ever been funny. It should go into the sea. So like, I think it's hard to keep it fresh and interesting. And to kind of see things with like a clear perspective when you get like really deep into the editing process. And then there is also just like sort of craft wise, there is a chapter where sort of like all is revealed and like we're going back to the beginning and like this is sort of like why things are the way they are. And I remember writing that chapter took me a really long time. And I remember writing it and being like, if I don't nail this project falls apart. Like it was a bit of a keystone. Like it needs to be there.
Yeah.
So even just like sort of starting that was nerve wracking because I knew it was I knew when it needed to happen. I was just like, oh, it's all going to fall apart.
And what's kind of like, I mean, the book's being released in June. So what's that going to look like for you?
Yeah. So I get to chat to lovely people such as yourself on lovely podcasts such as these. And I'm doing a launch at Glee Books the night it comes out, which I feel very lucky to be able to do. It's interesting because Meredith observed this once. Like there are some writers who like kind of share from the start and sort of like pass out their work and get feedback immediately. I am the sort of writer where like I keep it to myself for as long as possible.
Okay.
Conversations like these are kind of some of the first conversations I've had where I'm really sort of like, it sounds like I'm in trouble, but like explaining myself and like articulating what was going through my mind when writing the book. So that's been something I've been thinking about, and I'm trying to be like, why did I make that decision? Like, what is my explanation for this? So yeah, just talking about the book, which is that like I'm so excited. Like I'm so excited for people to be able to read it. Like that is so scary, but I'm very excited about it as well. I'm getting more excited about it. First it was just fear. Now the excitement's coming in.
Yeah. Have you read some of like feedback already with individuals who have had advanced copies?
Yeah, I have. I've gotten some really lovely. I got some lovely blurbs. I got some lovely messages from people who got arcs and things like that, and that's been amazing. And like so, like every time I get a message like this, I'm like, I am going to do this for every arc I receive for the rest of my life. Because like it means so much to me. And like every person who has an arc loose on the world is just such a nervous wreck. So like I was just like, I need to pass this goodness along.
You should print them out and get them framed. And every book that you have, you just have like a big print and then you can hang them on your wall.
I love that. I have a big blank spot on my wall behind me, actually. Just sleep under the sweet embrace of positive reviews. It is nerve-wracking and it feels surreal, but it is really exciting as well.
Yeah. Oh. And one last question before I ask where people can find you. I asked you at the start, what's one thing you miss about the US? What's one thing that you love about Australia or Sydney specifically?
I think Australians have an incredible grasp on how important it is to get joy from things other than work and ambition. And I think it is something Americans can really learn from. And I find that there is so much like joy and humor and kindness in day-to-day life in a way that even though we're in a major city, and even though obviously so many people here are ambitious and are working really hard, there is still a sense of being able to take a step back and sort of enjoy the pace of things and enjoy just letting things unfold.
Yeah.
And the food's better. And the food's better.
The food is really good here. Have you got a favorite,
I don't know if people
restaurant or cafe that you like going to?
Oh, Delio Deli in Newtown.
Yeah.
And it's Cairo Takeaway in Newtown. Yeah, it's in Newtown or it's in Enmore. But both of those, they're beautiful places filled with people making beautiful food. And I'm so happy to have access to them.
Yeah. I mean, Newtown and Enmore have fantastic restaurants, don't they? I used to, when I lived that side of the bridge, I used to go there quite a lot. I now live north of the bridge, so I don't venture that way too often. But yeah, they have some great restaurants around there.
Yeah, can't complain. I hope everyone in Australia appreciates how good the food is here.
Yeah, I think we do, especially people that have moved here from other countries. I'm sure Australians who are born and bred appreciate it because we probably drill on to them how good they have it here.
Yeah, we talk it up. We talk it up.
Yeah. Well, where can people find you? You're on Instagram. Is it just your name on Instagram, Mary, or do you have a specific act on there?
It's just Mary.Colussi on Instagram. Yeah. That's the best place to find me on social media. I also have a website, which is just www.marycolussi.com. So everything is under my name. I'm not hiding anywhere. If you just Google my name, I'll appear. Not physically, just digitally.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, look, and you can find me at my favorite restaurants.
Yes, yeah. Now that you've said it, people might stalk you if you put their book. Can I have a signed copy? That's when you know you've made it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I've loved chatting to you. I'm wishing you all the best. Touch Grass is out. Exact date in June?
June 2nd.
June 2nd. So not far away. I'm wishing you all the best and excited to see, the results that you get. I know it's going to do extremely well. And to hear kind of what else is to come from you as well. So I'm wishing you all the best.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you giving writers a platform to talk about stuff.
More than welcome. I love doing it. So yeah, I think everyone's got a unique story. So it's great to kind of put that out into the world. And hopefully it inspires other potential aspiring authors to keep going in the right direction and not to give up.
Absolutely. It's a good thing.